Everyone, Richard Robbins here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Shawn Achor, who wrote a book called The Happiness Advantage, in there he cited a study. And what they did, over 275,000 people were studied, and what they discovered was that success did not lead to happiness. Happiness leads to success. Also, I can go into many other studies that have been done, and they have found in the sales industry, the happier somebody is, the higher their sales. Interesting, isn't it? Now, happiness is elusive, isn't it? And at the end of the day, people are saying, well, yeah, I'd like to be happier, and some days I'm happy, some days I'm not, some mornings I'm happy, some afternoons I'm not, that sort of thing. And what I did just over 20 years ago, I developed an exercise, and it's called the Happiness Exercise. This is about 4 pages long, and I've done this now, with over 10,000 people. So what I want to do is I want to talk to you about this exercise, because this exercise to me is designed to clearly show the person doing the exercise how they can become happier, and the happier we become, the more sales we do, right? And that leads to more success. So when I developed this, I used to be on the phone back when I was still doing coaching 20 years ago. And of course, I had studied this and understood that happiness was very important in somebody's success. So what I would do, I would ask people on the phone, I say, okay, if you just pick a number, overall happiness, like how happy do you feel? Right now, how happy do you feel? I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, and somebody might pick a 7. I go, okay, a 7, well, what do we have to do to get you to an 8? So I used to have these conversations, and they would tell me, well, if I did this, if I did that. So then what I did, I continued to develop this exercise, and it was through actually working with my coaching clients one-on-one that I developed it. And here's what I finally figured out. I looked at it and says, people will pick their overall happiness, and let's say somebody says they're a 7, they say they're a 6. Well, then what I also did was I developed 7 different areas of life. And I got them to rate themselves in each area of these 7 areas on a scale of 1 to 10. So professional fulfillment being 1. Not how much money you make, but how much you love what it is you do. Another one might be your intimate relationship. Now that doesn't mean you have an intimate relationship. So an example of that would be if somebody just got a divorce, and let's say they were in a very abusive relationship, they could be single and they could feel pretty good, right? So it's not about the way the world looks at you, it's the way you feel about that area of your life. So somebody might have just got divorced, came out of an abusive relationship, and they might rate themselves a 9 and they don't have a relationship. That's fine. It's just the way you feel about that area of your life, right? Same with professional fulfillment. How much do you love what it is you do? If you're a 9 or a 10, you'd probably do it even if you weren't getting paid. And then another area of life would be your money, your finances, which we refer to how do you feel about your income, how do you feel about your cash flow, how do you feel about your level of debt. And it's just how you feel about it, because happiness is a feeling, isn't it? So what I did was I've got all these people to start rating the 7 areas of their life on a scale of 1 to 10. Then once they rated the 7 areas, what I discovered, when you add the 7 areas up and you divide by 7, which means now we've got an average rating of the 7 areas, that what you're going to find is 95% of the time the overall happiness rating that people picked, and then the average of the 7 areas will be within 1. Will be within 1. It was mind-blowing when I started to do this on the phone. This was like 20 years ago, right? So here's what I discovered. I discovered that, let's say, as an example, let's say that your professional fulfillment, what it is you do for a living, is maybe a 9. And let's say that your intimate relationship is a 4. What would most people do in that case? They'd probably spend more time where? They'd spend more time at work. But if I'm already a 9 in my professional fulfillment and I spend more time at work, is it possible for my average rating to go up? No, because I'm already a 9. So what people do is they tend to spend more time in the good areas of the life and actually avoid, the lower areas of the life. Now the challenge with that, when we're avoiding the low areas, what are we still thinking about all the time? The low areas. And our happiness is going to be based on how we feel. So if we're thinking about things that are negative, let's say this. Let's say we owe a whole bunch of money to the tax man. We're struggling financially all of the time, and we just avoid it. We try not to think about it. Virtually impossible, would you all agree? So we go do other things and try not to think about it, but that doesn't work. And happiness is nothing more than a feeling. See, we can choose to be happy by what it is we focus on. So here's what happened when I did this and I started to take the lower areas of people's lives and I said, what we've got to do is we've got to raise the lower areas because the high area is already high. We raise the low areas. What happens to your average? It starts to rise. What happens to your global happiness, which was the number you picked at the top? It starts to go up. You start to feel better about you. You start to feel better about you. What do you start to do? You start to have more fun, number one, and you start to make more money, number two, if you're in sales. Make sense? That's what this whole thing was designed to do. Because what I discovered is that a lot of people were struggling with so many areas in their life that they couldn't get their happiness up, and their sales was not what they wanted it to be. So here's what I want to do for you. We have never made this tool available to the public. This is a tool that we've used in our events, that we've used with our coaching clients, as I said, for now 20 years. So you can now download this link, and what we have done is we put this into sort of a white paper format. You can read through it. You can actually do all of the exercises. It will give you your global happiness. It will give you the average. And then you look at the lower areas, and it will instruct you on what you can do to start raising some of those areas. Because here's what I do know. The happier you become as a real estate sales professional, the more sales you're going to do because more people are going to want to be around you. Because people like to hang out with people that are happy and have great energy. So anyway, I hope this was helpful to you. A little different than I normally do, I understand. But at the end of the day, everybody, remember, it's a beautiful life. Make it count.